always. We have some really good talent here in this room. Can you please introduce yourselves in case somebody doesn't know you? I doubt it. I think everybody knows you guys. But could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? And Rich, can we start with you?
Hello, my name is Rich LaSalle. I'm currently selectman running for a re-election. I also serve as a state representative. I've lived in town since 1979 and have been involved in, depending on what cycle of life I was in, I've been involved when I was younger as a coach on the rec committee, did a lot of work at Talent Hall. I was on the school board, and now that I'm in the autumn of my life, I am not as active physically as I was previously, but I'm here to serve you, hopefully to be reelected as selectman.
Thank you, Rich.
My name's Steve Gannon. We've been in town for about 22 years. I am currently the chair of the Litchfield Recreation Commission. I've been on the rec for, I think, 5 years and serving as chair for the last 2. Professionally, I'm an IT geek, and I'm currently the IT manager for Anheuser-Busch Brewery across the river.
Ooh. Ms. Queenan?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Queenan. I'm running for re-election for the Board of Selectmen seat. I've only served for 2 years because I had to step in. I ran again when somebody had to step down. Let's see, I've lived in town almost 23 years. I have an IT background, like a lot of people in the room here, for over 35 years. I've switched now to teaching. I'm a professor at SNHU, teaching now. I have served, I have to get the statistics out because I've been around for a while. The Historical Society is where it all started for me 7 years ago. I've been on the planning board for 5 years and the selectman rep for 2 years. The National Regional Planning Commission for 7 years, Heritage Commission for 1 year, and Board of Selectmen for 2 years. So
Okay.
I have enjoyed working with the town and I'd like to serve like the rest here.
Welcome, you guys, and thanks very much for everything that you provide. We do all appreciate it. Can you tell me some of your biggest accomplishments that you've had, Kim, as a selectman?
I can. I wrote down 6.
1, 2.
Some are minor, and some are, I think, are pretty good. I think I wrote down, I did, for majors, just doing the Board of Selectmen job itself. That requires me, because I sit on the planning board and an RPC, that I go to 88 meetings a year. So between, I have that statistic, I'm with 24 meetings for the Board of Selectmen, 24 meetings for the Planning Board, Capital Improvement Plan Committee, we have meetings. I'm an NRPC commissioner. I'm also the executive commissioner, and I have to do meetings to prepare to meet with Jay Mankara as the director, his role. So I'm losing the question. Oh, my accomplishments. So
Yes.
The accomplishments is I work very hard, as you can see. So what that led to, just doing the job itself and serving as a rep on these boards is a lot. So that's one major accomplishment. But the analysis and reasoning that I've used, I do believe will last for some years to come after I'm gone, whether I'm elected now or not. It's mostly in non-public that these happen, but I am persuasive. And I think we can't discuss what we talk about, but I do believe it'll have good impact on the town. I looked, we talked about the capital improvement plan with the budget committee. I looked at that as a success because not only did we deliver a plan, we had to also do the ARPA funds in that and prioritize. And with what was happening in town, with the school temporary and a little free fall there, there was an opportunity for that to split and go into 2 different capital improvement plans. The school wanted to do their own and maybe the town. So we really all had to work together as a committee and do what was greater good for the town. And I think that was a success that happened. And everybody participated in that, all the groups.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Minor was the metal detecting policy on town land, but I do want to include cemeteries in that. I'm going to stay away from the ethics policy for now. But we did agree we do not need an ethics committee, that it gets in the way of right to know law and over policies that we have here. I think the biggest thing that I've done, and it's just going to maybe come out this week, because I've been working with the Board of Selectmen NRPC and the planning board and have taken years to forge those relationships to happen, taken time to learn how the grants work. We are actually in a position now, Litchfield, to start taking advantage of some of that work that's been done. Because on the executive committee, I am now have a chance to change what NRPC does. We're including now housing and energy.
Can I stop you for a
Yep.
second? Kim,
Yep.
can I ask you, what is the NRCP and
Oh,
why is it
NRPC?
important?
It's the National Regional Planning Commission. Litchfield is in that commission, in a region, and it's us and 13 towns together. So when we're on the planning board, we're planning for our town, but we also want to look at what the region is doing so we can work together. In case we have a barrier, we want to work together. In case we see an opportunity, we want to work together.
Okay. Like what? What is?
Um,
what kind
Like a
of
barrier could be the energy problems, prices right now as well. Housing is a crisis right now, so we're trying to look at some of the grants for that.
Okay.
So what happened was, I put in for a grant, but it took a lot of work from everybody, all the boards together. And the Route 3A Corning Road intersection, we put in for a grant to see if we can improve that, because it currently has a grade of a C-, and it's going to fail in about 5 to 10 years, or it's going to take you 3.5 minutes to turn left out of Corning Road to get on 3A. So we put in for a grant, hoping it was, we had the first grant to get the engineering pricing done, and it came in to fix that intersection would be $1.32 million, because there's going to be 2 turning lanes also added, but no light. So if we had gotten the grant, they would give us $1 million, and we would have to come up with a 20% match of $263,000. They gave us the grant, and we don't have to pay for the match. So $1.3 million $32 million is coming to Litchfield. We don't have to pay to fix that intersection. So,
Congratulations.
but more important than that is the work we've done with NRPC, putting procedures in place. We now can get the grants, I think, better, because I'm demanding a monthly report of grants we can have, where we are, and what we need to do. Not just for us, but the 13 towns.
Wow.
So
Kim,
that's what I'm gonna work on.
That's awesome.
Thanks. So, we have money. No, we will.
That's great. That's really good. Steve, I know you've done a lot for the town recreationally. Can you tell me what you're proudest of?
Yeah, so
Major
first of all, it's
accomplishment?
very hard for me I'm too modest. It's hard for me to say what I've done. I could, because it's the commission that does it. We all work together. I have to say, we probably at this point, we have a very great commission. We're firing on all cylinders. We're really getting a lot done, and everybody's involved. It's been fantastic. So as the chair, some things we've focused on is we've been updating our bylaws, which will make it easier for the Recreation Commission to determine what we should do, what we shouldn't do, who should use the fields, prioritize the fields, and just make decisions going on down the road, much easier to do. We implemented a field and facilities calendar, which makes it easier for the commission in all the sports leagues or organizations to check the calendar to see when they want to have time on the fields. Is it available, or who's out there? One thing I struggled with when we first started is we didn't know who was in our facilities, who's on our fields at what time, and what are they doing.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement. I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have that. You never knew what was going
Never
on.
knew, and it
Or
was
if you could even, you'd show up more than one team would be at a field.
Yeah, and it was also a liability because we should know who's doing what. And it was a struggle for our maintenance crew to get out there because they're trying to schedule time, but whenever they go out there, there's another group.
Right.
So that's helped a lot. We got a new deck built on the back of Talent. The nice thing about this is we used encumbered funds that was about to expire. The encumbered funds would go back to the general fund and then probably be used someplace else. Chances of it going back to the people, back to the taxpayer was pretty slim. So we worked with one of the local legends in town, Jim Spots. He got in touch with the National Guard. We paid for the material and they built the deck. So now we have a nice safe deck on the back of Talent. We don't have to worry about it anymore. This year we changed a simple thing, changing a porta potty vendor. Last year we struggled with the company that we were using. It was a big company, and we weren't getting the service we should have had. So we recently.
Small thing until you need one, right? Small thing until you need one?
Yes, yeah. So I reached out to a local company, small local company, and we're going to get better service, and we also get a reduced cost. So that's a big win. Our sports leagues, when I started, we were in COVID. So that was shut everything down real quick. That's when we realized we really need to know who's where, who's on the fields, who has access to talent. And then when we came out of COVID, there was the concern of, will everything return to normal, and how can we do it? And now I think the sports leagues are stronger than they were. Talent Hall is busy 7 days a week, almost 12 to 14 hours a day. So that's really taken off. CIP. Last year, we put out 5 items on the CIP. I don't think the CIP was ever even a word that was used at the Recreation Commission. The nice thing about the CIP is 3 of those items are being completed. One's already done. Paving at Talent or Roy Memorial Park is already done.
It's gorgeous, by the way.
Great job. We are having new pickleball courts put in. And once again, between a very generous donation and the use of impact fees, we're going to have 6 pickleball courts. That's going to break ground as soon as I wouldn't doubt if he starts next week. As soon as the snow melts a little bit more, that's going to break down. The third one is we worked with our contractor, and we're going to try to put a new well at Roy Memorial Park. Our fields have struggled because the well is old, sucking a lot of silt, just not working. That was one of the items on the CIP, and we are working with our, that was unfortunately was crossed off because we're going to use ARPA funds. But the new contract we have with our vendor is he's going to attempt to put a well in. And then, of course, with pickleball, we're expanding services at at Sawmill Park. What we're going to try to focus on this year is the bathrooms at Talent Hall need to be updated. They haven't been updated since the building was probably repaired when it burned 30 years ago. So we already have a quote out from a couple vendors to see what we can do about updating the bathrooms that need repair. And this summer we have an ADA swing that we're going to be installing.
So you guys did Chaos and Kindness.
Yep. Yeah,
And I was wondering, do you think you're going to have more concerts come in?
I
know if you serve on the select board that you'll have to pass that on, but I kind of would like more concerts. That was really fun.
It was, that was a great event. It happened quickly. We pulled it off real quick. No issues. The nice thing is they came in, they set up the stage. We had local vendors, all local food vendors come in. They were mainly Litchfield people. They donated back to the town 20%, so 10% went right back to the town to cover police and fire, etc.
Yeah.
And then 10% went to take needy children out that needs to go school shopping that they didn't have the money. So
Yeah.
10% they took them to the mall and went school shopping.
That's awesome.
I still am in touch with Melissa, who runs the show, letting her know, we're ready, available if they ever want to do it again. And then hopefully we can have them back to do another concert.
I hope Rec does more concerts. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's something we've talked about. We need to build a stage, but that would be great to have Spirit of Litchfield also has
Yeah,
returned.
yeah.
They've had, I think last year we had 4 events, and that was fantastic. The fishing, we matched up the fishing derby with conservation, so that's back. There's a lot going on, and it's just
Yeah, Rec
skyrocketing.
has been very successful. Thank you, Steve. We thank everybody on that board for everything that they've done. Rich, you're a busy guy. You're a select person. You also serve on another board. What board is that?
Well, I'm in the legislature.
Right, but you're a selectman's rep to
The Heritage
Heritage
Commission.
Commission, which is
Yes.
awesome for you.
Yes. But as far as what I am proud of as being a selectman, it's a 5-person board.
Yep.
It's very much a team effort. I think each member of the team currently brings something to the table. I echo what Kim said. She does a tremendous job with the NRPC and the planning board, and her work with the grants has been awesome. When I look at my contribution, I've always been considered an original thinker. Sometimes, everybody has their own ideas, but sometimes I come up with things that nobody else has thought about. And I am, as Kim said, I'm fairly convincing when I want to be. I think as far as the intersection between my job in Concord and my job with respect to the Board of Selectmen, I'm on the Municipal and County Government Committee in the legislature, And there I get the perspective of how the state works with the towns and the counties to get things done. So sometimes my job as a selectman and my job as a state rep, they come together in a lot of those committee meetings, and then I bring that back to the selectmen. So I think it's very much like I said, a team effort. I'm a consensus builder. I like to think of, okay, I hear your perspective, I hear your perspective. How can we bring those together and get things done? I think when I look back at my 40-plus years here in Litchfield, I've gotten some really big things done, generally with a lot of people's help. And I think as long as I'm able to contribute, I will endeavor to do that.
Thank you very much for everything that you've done for the town, Rich. I'm going to start back with you on the next question and go back around. What do you think are some of Litchfield's biggest challenges in the coming term?
Water. Ever since I've been on the select board, water has been a challenge. And water is a challenge as we sit here and will continue to be a challenge into the future. We have three problems with water. One is the water quality. Lots of times people don't get the quality of water that they want. The cost of the water is we pay some of the highest rates in the state for our water. And the third is the whole PFOA problem with St. Gobain. One of the things that I'm involved with is being on the PFOA commission. And, as a select board, we're looking at ways into the future. What's a long-term solution to these issues that we have? And nothing's easy when it comes to water, and there's no easy solutions. But I think that as a challenge, that's something that affects almost everybody in town, and it begs for a solution. And that's, it almost never does a day go by that I don't think about the water issue for the town of Litchfield.
Steve?
I would agree with Rich. There's really four: water, budgets and taxes, growth in schools. On the water issue, that's probably, I think, when your water bill becomes one of your highest utilities, that's a problem. A little research: Litchfield belongs to Pennachuck East. There's about 12 or 13 other little towns in there. We pay $9.50 a CCF, which is 100 cubic feet, or 748 gallons. All right. Nashua is $3.86.
Yeah, I never
Hudson
get that.
is $3.30. Manchester is $1.80. They also asked for a 7% increase. So why is our water so expensive?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because the aging infrastructure that we are footing the bills for all these other little towns. Now, our water comes from the same place Hudson's comes from, and the only difference is there's a valve with a meter on sending water to Hudson, and then there's a valve with the meter sending water to Litchfield. So we're already tied together.
Yeah.
So I think water is probably at the top of everybody's mind at this point in time. And then you pay expensive water bills. The water's brown. I know people who live on Page Road in the new development, and he says his water pressure is even horrible. That when he turns on his shower, if the water's not brown, it only pushes out maybe a foot. So it's, there's no excuse. That's probably one of the newest sections in town. Why do they have such poor water and water quality? But then we have the most expensive prices. So I think water would probably be the biggest thing that we need to tackle.
Kim?
I had three. One was water. I don't think I need to elaborate on that as much. The tax cap, to me, came up. I think having a conversation with our town administrator just when we were just setting up for a meeting one time, and we were talking about tax cap. I saw the look on her face when she said she was concerned that we could go bankrupt. And I said, why? So she was concerned with the inflation at 8 and sometimes 13.1%. We could have a problem if we don't address how we're going to handle this. So whatever's on the warrant article is fine. I tend to
We're
agree.
going to talk more about the tax
Yeah,
cap.
yeah, I just agree that, people are scared if we put 5%, people will always try to spend the 5%. I hope that there's some number in there that we can just use it just to handle inflation, not always have to spend the money, but just have it there as a buffer. The other thing is not really just a Litchfield issue, it's more the region. I know we may be getting a new fire truck, that's great, but when I talk to the people in NRPC, the towns out like Mason and Brookline sometimes use our truck if there's a problem. I don't have a problem with that, but maybe there's FEMA money that can maybe look at a grant for a fire truck for out there, so we can keep ours here more locally.
Okay.
So that would be something I would explore.
Okay, thank you very much. Since you kind of addressed the tax cap, I'm assuming that you are for it and for the 5%.
I am at the moment, but I understand the concern of people thinking just because it's available, we're going to spend it. If we don't have to spend it, I don't want to do that.
Well, that prior board that was here seems like they go through everything with the fine-tooth comb.
They do. I was so impressed with that last board, honestly.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling this big when I watch them, how they work. So, yeah.
Well, no, because you do a ton.
No, I'd love to see what they do. Very talented group.
Yeah, so we're for that tax cap, because that's gonna be the next question I'm going around with.
I am for
And
it.
I want to hear more about, so Kim is concerned about the town could possibly go bankrupt, I'm
Well, if we're
hearing
locked
that.
into prices, right, everything was wages, salt went up, what, tripled, salt? Just electricity, just, if we don't do any more services, we still hit that tax cap. So it's, do we reduce services? And as the board can say, we got a lot of them in the room here, and I'll thank our leadership who's sitting here, both of you, the chairman and the vice chairman, they focused just on public safety. Because, one, that was the right thing to do. There was no extra money to, play with. So
Yep.
if we just don't do anything else with services, we're gonna hit that tax cap with no problem. So we need to do something,
Okay,
or cut services.
all right, thanks very much, Kim. Steve, how do you feel about the tax cap?
I would support it as well. With the percentage, knowing that, no, we won't try to give it as a, hit 5% every time, but we need that flexibility. I think the town for years have set limits that need to change, such as the tax cap. Conservation had theirs capped at $1 million. And as prices increase, our demands increase, and we need to free up that money. Let the 5%, if needed, go up to 5% so that we could have the flexibility to use it. I think the conservation needs to, I think they changed it to $2.5 million. I think it should be even higher. So as the cost of houses go up
I love that answer.
and, the use of impact fees come in, we shouldn't be filling the bucket to the top and letting it flow over. We should be able to utilize that money as we need. So I would definitely support the 5%.
Thank you, Steve. Rich, how do you feel about the tax cap?
Well, I'm in favor. I voted for the warrant article. 5% was kind of an in-between, knowing that most inflation that was affecting the town was more in the 8 to 9% range. We came up with 5%. I think it's important for people to understand that when they think about taxes, sometimes they think about taxes in Washington, D.C., or taxes in Concord, but it's really taxes in Litchfield that has, for the average person, that has more impact on them than national taxes or state taxes. And government will always spend what they have, and they're always looking for more. So even if we got a windfall, I'm sure we would come up with a way of spending that. So in my mind, the limit of 5% is more realistic than the 175,000 that was in previously. I think that It's an excellent thing to have in place, and it serves a real good purpose, and I think as we go forward, we can certainly live with that.
The town budget process this year was really hard. You heard the chair of the budget committee express admiration for the way you guys handled it. What was the most heartbreaking thing you saw cut from the budget this year that you wish could have been different, that could possibly be solved by the 5%?
Well, I think as a selectman, you find that people are moving into town. The character of the town has changed somewhat. We have people that are moving in that have a higher expectation with respect to services. So they're demanding more and more. And then we have the people who have been around for a long time, perhaps on a fixed income, a very limited budget, and they're being squeezed by all of this. So I think, we didn't have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the budget. And I think that as we move forward, we just have to always keep in mind that there are people out there that are being faced with higher utility costs, higher gasoline costs, higher water bills, particularly here in Litchfield. And maybe the raises that they're getting is not keeping pace with all this inflation. And if the town is constantly asking for more and more and more money, people are getting squeezed. So it's a challenge sitting here as a selectman to meet the demand for increased services, but at the same token, keeping the taxpayer in mind. And that's the balance that you always have to weigh.
Thank you, Rich. Steve, the budget cuts even hit recreation this year. You were faced with having to pull out of some of the recreational things that, like the fishing derby that you had supported in the past. You went to deliberative, and you actually put out a good performance to get the money back. But what are you seeing that's worrying you that right now, before the tax cap is raised, is not going to be provided for?
So that's the budget committee probably has one of the hardest jobs, because with that tax cap, they had to make decisions that you could tell that they were not comfortable with, but they had to do it to get it underneath. So even if on a personal level they didn't like it, they realized they had to do that job. So some of the things that were cut, I understand. I don't know what we could do to really change it. I think some of the things, I know earlier, the last meeting, they mentioned that the school board should also have a tax cap. And I think, what is the percentage of our taxes, 80% or more go to the school, or maybe 92%? I don't know what the ratio is.
It's really high.
Really high.
Yeah.
But they should also have a tax cap to keep that under control, because if we're, as a town side, doing our part to maintain and monitor our rates, they should also have to be doing the same to keep our best interested.
Thanks very much, Steve. Kim, going through the budget, what are some of the things that broke your heart that had to leave the budget?
That had to leave? Well, one didn't make it on it, but one did. The one that didn't make it on it, I thought, would be the library. I thought if we're hitting a recession or something may happen, families would use that more instead of going out. So that was one thing. But what actually was cut, and I understand why they had to do it, we do have a person in the military who, if they come back, we have to pay their salary, and it had to be cut. So if they do come back, we're going to have to find that money somewhere. And we will. We'll make sure. But it's just, that's how tough the decisions were.
Right.
That we were making.
Yeah. People that had jobs that were supposed to be waiting.
Yeah, they're supposed to be waiting, and if they'd come back, we need to find the money.
Okay. Gonna go back to you, Kim. Some of the boards are having a hard time working together.
Mm-hmm.
What will help?
I was kind of smiling back there, but not really. When the capital improvement plan was going on, we are trying to do what we were tasked to do. Kerry will remember this, I believe, because you are in Scouts, and we had a young man getting his Eagle badge. So from the Board of Selectmen, I volunteered to go to give the recognition to this young man, and in comes somebody from the school board. So I'm sitting there with one of our firefighters at a table, and in comes somebody from the school board without, I was on the zip. And I'm like, as a joke, hey, you should get a picture of this, right? Because
The
everybody
three of
on
you
TV
together
is seeing,
doing something
yeah,
positive
and then
for the
Kerry
town.
walks in, so all three of us, and we got a picture all together. And but the firefighter was like, oh, what am I going to do with this picture? Which is telling you that they're perceiving that. The public's seeing this, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, we're all getting along, right? And I think it's like, yeah, we can have a disagreement in a meeting, but still work together personally. So I think it's kind of ironic it happened. It's obviously being picked up, but we can work on this better. We have to find a way. Again, the transparency, keeping an open mind is the other big one that we have to do, and have conversations.
Thanks very much, Kim. Steve, what do you think?
Over the years, a lot of the boards have become siloed, and lack of communication, lack of collaboration. They all had their blinders on, just worried about what they were focused on. And I think that built up over time. The nice thing is, listening to the last meeting, a lot of the people have the same feeling that we have to open up the communication channels. We have to work together. Some of the things I think we could do is have, instead of the selectmen at the end of each meeting, do a roundtable quick discussion of committee updates, which is great, but I think instead maybe the chairs of each committee should join the selectmen meeting at least once a month, once a quarter. School board, because they have a huge project going on, they should be coming in front of sitting down with the select board once a month to give a status update of where they are with the project and what's going on. And then recreation, Steve sits on the board with us, he meets with us, so he knows what's going on, but I think it would be beneficial for each chair, such as myself, to give an update on a little bit more information on what's going on. So I think that would help with
That's a great
collaboration.
idea. I like going to the different meetings as a representative for conservation and hearing what's going on there, and to letting them know what we're doing face to face, as opposed to just hearing it from our rep that sits on it.
But I think a lot of it is, we need to break those silos and start the collaboration, communication between each, right
I know
now.
rec and conservation have done a lot of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, rec and conservation, we work really well together. We purchased a tractor together last year. We're doing the fishing derby this year. And I think it's just something that we need to continue to spread out.
Rich, what's your feeling about the controversies between the groups right now? What's your perspective? What do you think we can do? You've dealt with a lot of people in your life.
Yeah, managing conflict is a difficult part of life in general. Some people approach it in one way and some people approach it another. I've never really had an issue with people and interactions with people in my life. I think it's important for, when we talk about the boards and the interaction of the people, I think it's important for the elected members of the community who sit on these boards to take leadership of those boards and not have employees of the board pretty much run that board, because employees who live out of town don't have a vested interest in the town the way that people have. You know, Kim Kleiner does an excellent job. I'm so happy, so proud of the selectmen in making that decision. But when it comes to decisions that affect the towns, Kim Kleiner, the town administrator, takes a back seat on that. It's the elected members of the selectmen who live in town, who are part of the community, that they need to take a leadership position on. And I think other boards in town should do that also.
That was well put, Rich. Thanks very much. My next question is going to be for you. What does Litchfield look like in 10 years, Rich?
Well, I joke with Robert and some other people that whoever moved into Litchfield today says, my gosh, Litchfield's a wonderful place. Let's stop anybody else from moving into town. Let's freeze it just the way it is.
Okay.
And
Kidding.
I had a talk with Chief Passaconaway, who said, you know, damn those white people, move it into Litchfield. You know, we have a beautiful town here, and we don't want any of these interlopers, these flatlanders, these white people moving into town because we have a perfectly good Merrimack River and it serves our needs. Change is inevitable. We're in a crisis here in Litchfield from a housing standpoint. I don't know if any of you have grown children who are trying to buy a house or even renting an apartment. It's tough when the housing crisis impacts the economy. We have employers who are begging for people to move into New Hampshire, but if you can't buy a house or you can't pay a $2,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment, you know, it's tough. So change, you know, I moved into town in 1979. We had one gymnasium in town. We had a crisis with respect to our kids. Our high school kids didn't know where they were going to go to high school. And just in the time that I've spent in town since 1979, we have made remarkable progress. Now, I'm sure there are people who were around in 1979 and said, you know, I don't like all this new stuff. I don't like all these new young people, these McMansions that are going up and so forth. Give me the three-bedroom raised ranch for $35,000 without a garage, you know, and that was typical of that time. So I think we have done an excellent job in managing growth. I hear people talk when they come into town. They drive up Albuquerque and they say, what a wonderful, wonderful street this is. Albuquerque. How did it get the name Albuquerque? Well, there was a guy named Ed Albuquerque who had a dream to have this street. I didn't have anything to do with it, but a wonderful, wonderful thing that vision that he had, and it has made Litchfield unique. When people drive up to Campbell High School and they see all the people along the road walking their dogs and walking, it's great. So, you know, like I said, I'm in the autumn of my life. I'm so proud of the town that we are, the town that we were 40 years ago, and the town that we're gonna be. I'm so proud of it, and I'm absolutely convinced that we have the people, the leadership, the volunteers to make it an even better town into the future. So.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So growth, that's a tough one.
Now, I forgot the question. Now, what does Litchfield look like in
10 years. So we have to remember that we live in a very desirable location, southern New Hampshire. We're convenient to nothing, but we're an hour away from everything. Mm-hmm. So this is a place to live. And then you add in COVID, where people reevaluated their lives, decided, you know what, I don't want to run to Boston every day to work. If we downsize or we do something different, maybe we could live out in the woods. A lot of people now are telecommuting, so they don't have to be in offices. I think what we have to do is, manage our growth in a way where, like Kim and Kate on the planning board, support the ZBA. They do a great job of that. If you're going to live here, you're going to follow these parameters so that we don't lose that old farm town and approach. You can't stop growth. It's going to happen. We can't tell people what they can and can't build on their property. It's their property. But if we could put the parameters in place so it at least fits the town character, I think it's great. The new gas station going in, there's a lot of people squabbling over the looks, but it looks just like Town Hall. We don't need another pizza place. We don't need a mobile gas. We need a Shell gas. We don't need it shouldn't be Dunkin's. It should be Starbucks. That's not up to the people to decide. It's the man that's building the building, and he's jumped through hurdles to get that in place, and I think it's a great thing. But he's also making sure that he lives here, so it aligns with how the town looks.
I've sat in a lot of meetings to make sure that will be a safe addition to our community, and conservation and planning did a lot.
We need to continue supporting conservation so that, as I mentioned earlier, keep that bucket of water full. So if farmland becomes available, we could gobble it up. Dark Hole Stable, we missed because we didn't have enough funds in the bucket to pick up. Something that people don't realize too is Litchfield does not have sewerage. Everything is septic. We're not going to have huge developments coming into town because, like a huge warehouse or strip mall, because we don't have sewage. So it's going to be septic. That's just cost prohibitive. So that alone will prevent a lot of huge growth. We're not going to be Merrimack. We're not going to be Londonderry. We're not going to be Hudson because we don't have sewage. Unless some big company comes in and wants to put it in for us, I don't see that happening. And as long as the planning board and ZBA keep doing their job and putting the parameters in place and asking the tough questions and pushing back hard, I think we're going to stay a small community and continue to grow a little bit with housing.
Thanks, Steve. Kim, you've been on the CIP, and that kind of is a map of what the town will look like.
There it is.
Can you tell me what you think?
I think in 10 years, because time goes so quickly, I've already been here over 2 decades, I think 3A is going to maybe look the same. I'm hoping we don't lose a major farm, because that, like you said, could easily flip to housing.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping it stays pretty much the way it is. I do see more houses coming in. I'm hearing of more houses also. I haven't seen anything on paper, but usually when you hear it, it's coming. I do see more industrial development maybe in the northern commercial section happening. You can already feel the difference when you come in through that part of town, but they're doing okay. They get the sidewalks going, and as long as they follow the law and everybody's safe, like you said, they have the right to develop what they're doing.
We talked about water quality, cost, pollution as a problem in town. This is a question from one of our viewers that it does not seem to be being addressed. What will you do about the water issue? I know, Kim, you have a lot on your plate in other areas, but what do you see having to be done?
Mr. LaSalle kind of hinted at it. We have our leadership over here doing some very good research on that. And they don't have all the answers yet, but they are working on a solution, so I can't speak about it. So me personally on a committee for that, I don't think I can. I'm already doing 88 meetings unless something goes.
A year do you do?
How many meetings?
Yeah.
88 required, but then there's always emergency meetings and sidewalks,
Okay.
stuff like that. It's okay.
You had given me a number that was bigger than that 88.
Yeah, my rest of you looked at it.
Yeah.
I thought it was over 100.
Steve, what can we do?
So I see on
What can you do?
the Board of Selectmen agenda on Monday, there is a topic water feasibility analysis contract. So it looks like we're already moving in that projection. So hopefully get the ball rolling and keep it going. I think we need to investigate our options. What can we do? What would it cost to buy out the system like Hudson did years ago? As the water coming over the bridge goes to Hudson and to Litchfield, so we're already connected. So what would it take in order for us to buy out our part and then contract through a Hudson or a Manchester or someone who could provide us water for cheaper and still get the service that we have? So that's something I would definitely want to pursue and at least investigate our options so that we can put it on the table, how much it's going to cost, and let the taxpayers decide, is it worth it?
Rich, you're on a board that's investigating what to do locally.
Yeah, water is obviously a big challenge. We're really at the mercy of Pennachuck now. People that have city water are at the mercy of Pennachuck. We really got raked over the coals the last time on rate increases. The only long-term solution is for us to buy out the system, and that will definitely be if you desire to return me to the select board for the next 3 years, I'll guarantee you that that will be a big topic as we move forward. So there's always a question with respect to, well, I'm on a well, why should I bother about buying out the water system? And that is a big consideration. So we have a lot of issues to worry about there, but the only permanent solution is for Litchfield to have its own water system.
You bring up wells. We've got PFOA problems. We've lost a lot of the wells that people have spent a lot of money sinking.
Yep.
What do we do as a town? How do we move forward from it? It's affecting our crops, our river.
Well, there's a lot of unknowns with respect to PFOAs. One, if people are in the area that's been impacted by PFOA, that they do have a right to get hooked up to city water. There are still people that are on bottled water. They're not able to get piped in city water.
And isn't that something we can hold Pennachuck's feet to the fire
Well,
on?
it's coming. I mean, it just takes a long time for them to get it in place.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it is coming. But as far as we don't know the long-term impact of PFOA, there's no standards with respect to if you're ingest PFOAs over a long period of time, does that definitely cause cancer? There's a study that I'm involved in some legislation that's going to be studying the impact of on kidney cancer. There's a thought that PFOA has long-term impact of causing kidney cancer. If you don't have good water, it impacts everything as far as your quality of life. So it's a big problem. We've attempted over the last few years to keep St. Gobain's feet to the fire. They have installed some scrubbers, and we just have to keep on them all the time to make sure that we're protected.
So the next question I've gotten 3 times, so I've been sitting here from 3 different people. If you're elected, how responsible will you be towards all the town citizens and follow through on things?
It's a good question, because people think that their particular situation needs to be, you need to be responsive to their particular situation at the expense of everybody else. I am very much upfront. You know what you're getting with me. I treat everybody the same. Now, should somebody get special treatment because they feel that they're of some protected class? In my situation, I treat everybody with respect. I treat everybody the same. And unfortunately, if people have a problem with that, we have to agree to disagree.
Yes, question again?
If elected, how responsible will you be towards town citizens, all of them, and follow through on things?
So, I'm pretty open. I believe breaking down the silos and making the select board more approachable would definitely be helpful. But people also have to realize there's a mechanism to do that, and going on social media and blasting people is not the way. If they have a question, if they have a concern, there's ongoing meetings, there's public input. Every meeting there's public input, and they should come to the meeting and express what they want to talk about.
Good point. Very good point. I see a lot of keyboard warriors on groups that I never see anywhere else.
Yep. And then you also have to remember too, there's certain things that the select board legally cannot discuss. And, so within the legal parameters, but if they have questions, they should come to the meeting and ask those questions.
Kim, How responsible will you be towards all town citizens, and are you able to follow through on things?
I think I have proven that. I usually do deep dives and work and make sure I get them the information. We did set up with the board, with John Brunel's help, right, an online place where they can go and put concerns, and it
Oh,
gets
okay.
addressed to the correct person.
Okay.
So we're trying to handle it that way, because sometimes they just approach us
Does it
and
help?
send us one.
Is it helping?
I hope so. I've already entered stuff, people come to me and I've put stuff in it, and I know it gets routed to the people who are going to address it, so.
Okay.
We're trying to do that, and keep anonymity if they want it.
It helps with
As
your
well.
IT background to be able to do that.
Yeah, but I'm going to give most of that credit to John Brunel. He created it, we just
He's a
gathered the
great
information
teacher. He's a
for
really
him.
good teacher,
Yep.
because I struggle with some of the Google stuff. Jay sometimes shakes his head at me, because I thought I was really pretty good with all the IT stuff, but, yeah, some of it's complicated, so.
So, yeah,
it's
I
good
always
enough.
respond. I always respond to, if somebody sends me something, I will, ask him for help or question. We'll get it to the right person.
Too, right?
You can't, well,
that's-
you could put in a dummy email, but I won't tell you that.
But then if somebody doesn't feel comfortable coming to a meeting to ask a question, they could submit it online and potentially get an
Yep.
answer.
And
Okay.
the town administrator's always CC'd, so.
I have a question that someone asked me about you, Kim, that I want to bring up, and it's going to be kind of your last question, because next we're going to get to final thoughts. You're very quiet in the meetings, and some people have thought that meant that you're not as effective as some selectmen that select people that could possibly have more opinions, that are more comfortable expressing their opinion.
I think the selectmen will disagree with what you just said. Kim is
It was a
very
question that
effective.
came to me. Kim, explain to me your approach with the board,
My approach.
or explain to me,
Sure.
answer that question.
Yes, I can see where I've heard that before. Most people who know me know I usually do a lot of research before I come into the meeting. So sometimes I don't speak because I'm like, why? It's already there. So maybe I can work on that if that's a problem. But I do communicate, I think, pretty well. I probably do effectively more in writing than verbally.
Mhm.
But, I mean, nobody can dispute the amount of work that's being done, so.
Yeah, you
Maybe I
just-
need to get a PR person, if that would help.
Some people do get so busy working that they're not their own best advocate.
Oh, I agree, so, okay,
Yeah.
I'll pay attention to that, if that's a big concern.
From me to you, I do want to thank you for everything that you do for the
Okay,
town.
no,
I do
I'll
know
take
what you
it.
do in the background. I know you're on the planning board. I know you do attend a lot of stuff, so I do want to thank you.
Okay.
But that's going to be your final thought. Do you have a final thought that goes with that?
No, but now that I know about it, you might not be able to shut me up.
Oh, God, no, not another mouthy
And
woman.
I'll pull the microphone really in.
You flip the switch, now she's on.
Steve, your final thoughts. Why should we vote for you, dude?
So I think a lot of it, and this is a common thing I've heard out talking with people, is they believe a lot of commissions and boards over time become stagnant. There needs to be change. There needs to be fresh blood. There should be ongoing rotations where you get new people in. Someone even mentioned possible term limits. Some people have been on boards 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, and I just believe we need to keep fresh people on the board, always engaged, need to do your homework. I'm like Kim. I know Kim. I watch all the meetings. She does all her homework. She comes prepared. She's not just coming here to sit and do a meeting. So I think a lot of it is you have to be engaged. You have to be out there, and you have to be available to answer the questions and dig in and get the job done. And that's something I'm willing to do.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for running. Rich, final thoughts.
Well, with respect to Ms. Queenan, she may be quiet, but she has a very effective voice. Some of us have a big voice, and we should keep our mouth shut. So that's all I'll say there. But why should people vote for me? People know what they're getting with me, okay? I've been around since 1979. Since I've been an adult, from the time I joined the submarine service in 1969, my life has been one of service. Service to my country, service to my town, service to my state, and various impacts. Public service is my hobby. I think I'm an effective communicator. I'm an effective leader. As I said before, I'm an original thinker. I think of things that could possibly be done before others. And so, you know, when they finally put me out to pasture, I'll be able to look back and I'll say, you know, it's been a life well lived, and I thank people for the support that they've given me to this point, and hopefully into the future.
Thank you very much, Rich, and from my heart, I thank you for everything that you've done for this town. There's very few places that I don't think has some kind of stamp on it that says Rich LaSalle's was here. So thank you very much. Thank you all for everything that you do in our town. I really do appreciate it. You've made my life better, my children's life better, and the lives of the people around us better. Thank you again to LCTV for putting up with me. We're going to change gears here. For the first time, Jason Brennan gets to get behind the microphone and ask the tough questions. We do just have the one candidate today, but he is being given an opportunity to speak. And for obvious reasons, because I'm going to vote for this next guy that's coming up, I'm going to have to say. We're going to take another brief pause here, and then we'll be right back with the school board candidate that's here, Peter Plansky and Jason Brennan.
Thank you to
Thanks
the
so much,
WhatsApp
everybody.
page and to the
LCTV.
folks from Litchfield Community Television.
Thank you. And no F-bombs.